In today's video, creepy cable guy. The day I thought I was going to disappear. Jerky might have gotten us murdered. The title might make this encounter seem moderately cool thanks to Jim Carrey, but to this day I look back on it and feel a little sick. This was probably 2001 or 02. Sheesh, almost 20 years ago now. I was very young and dumb. I thought I was invincible, so I just wasn't a very careful person. I had moved into this awesome but isolated apartment. It was located upstairs in a historic downtown building. There were no other apartments in the building or even on the entire street, so when the businesses were closed on the weekends, it was a ghost town. I had arranged to have cable installed. Back then it was really dumb. They gave you a 4 to 8 hour window of when they might arrive and you were just a prisoner all day, waiting. I worked nights. I came home that morning and didn't go to sleep because I was afraid of not hearing the cable guy knock. Naturally, it took until mid-afternoon for him to arrive, robbing me of basically my whole night's sleep. Needless to say, I was quite grumpy. He struck me a skeevy on sight, but like I said, I was in a foul mood by then, so I let him in just wanting to get this over with. He didn't have a uniform, long greasy hair, overzealous smile and bad teeth. Also one of those people that keeps wanting to inch closer to you, even though you keep stepping away. Back then, I was even more no-nonsense than I am now, and I was just not having it. I wasn't even moderately polite. Probably the only time I've ever been rude to any sort of person who comes to my house for a service. But I told him to cut the chit-chat. I've been waiting all day. I plopped onto my couch to angrily watch him fiddling with wires. Problem was, I fell asleep. You know that disorienting feeling when you go to sleep in the afternoon and you wake up, knowing you've slept much longer than you meant to. Daylight had faded away, and the twinkling street lights outside were dancing in. And that man was sitting across the room in my armchair, staring at me. I gasped violently and scrambled to my feet, demanding to know what he was doing. He stood also and began to step forward. With this utterly stupid grin and this eerie choked up voice he said, "You were just so beautiful sleeping there, I couldn't help but watch you." Maybe he saw something in my eyes, but I stepped toward him and snarled at him to get out, and amazingly he did. I can still remember that ugly smile dying on his lips, and he turned and bolted. Thinking back, I always remember how alone I was up there. I was tougher back then, so I apparently came across as one not to be crossed when it counted. But it turned out that man had sat and watched me sleep for 3 hours while darkness fell. Boy did I get lucky. I was around 13 years old, it was summer, school was a month away and I was headed into public school from Catholic school. I had one friend who was making the same move I was, and she only lived 3 blocks away from me. I remember running out of my house with my friend, yelling to my mother who was in the kitchen, that we were headed to the deli over on the main road. Because I was with someone else, of course, I was allowed to go. If I was alone, my mother would have made a big stink about it. Once we turned onto the road that led to Main Street, we saw a man on a bike headed our way. Once he passed us, he turned around. To this day I can remember what he was wearing: ball cap, plaid shirt, brown t-shirt underneath, and a pair of faded jeans. I looked at my friend, but we kept going. He started to follow us, so when we got to the main road, we took off the opposite direction back towards my mother's house. Which means he would have to turn around. Now 2 girls running with all their might versus a grown man on a bike, you'd think he would have caught up to us easily, but it was like he was chasing us with a lack of effort. As if he wanted to get caught chasing down 2 13-year-olds. You can say that my friend, and I may have gotten the wrong idea, but then tell me why he turned down my block. But once he saw that we got into the house, out of breath, laying on my living room floor, why did he pass it, turn around to see if we came back outside, and took off the way he was originally going, which was towards the highway. I couldn't breathe for at least 10 minutes. I remember my mother threw us in the car and took off after the man. She found him on the side of the highway, riding his bike, and we pointed him out. My mom told us to hide behind the front seats so he couldn't see us. My mother laid into him so bad, he begged her not to call the police, which she did. As he tried to take off, another car stopped him by pulling onto the curb. He must have seen my mother fighting with the man and thought it looked strange. He escaped eventually, ran right into the woods and into the water. The police looked for him, but he was never found. It became the tale of the town, that girls that enter those woods never come out. About 6 years ago when I was 20, my sister was working with a popular cellular carrier who'd just opened stores in Alaska and was paying for employees to go help open them if they agreed to live there for 2 years. My sister and I have always been close, and she's like a second mom. She didn't want to go live in a new and strange state with just her fiancé and no other family, so I went with her. They decide that we'll drive through Canada because it was cheaper than shipping a car and truck. My best friend comes with us on this long voyage, so I have company when it's my turn to drive. While driving in another country is scary in itself, we ended up with a pop tire like twice, but shout out to the nice Canadians who fixed it free of charge. Anyway, when we get to the Washington-Canada border, the agent informs us the way we're going has gas stations that are incredibly spaced out, and he doesn't think that with us pulling a sleeper on a truck and having a second vehicle to drive it'll be the best idea, and shows us a route that'll take a day longer but has more stops along the way. It was through BC close to Alberta then up Yukon. So like 3 or 4 days later, I don't know exactly, that trip was the longest I've been on, so all the days blurred together really. We get to Yukon and we're low on gas and spot a middle of nowhere station. Of course we stop there. This place is run by one man and sells a variety of jerky, some that we've never tried before, bison, moose, I think, etc. We all go in to get drinks and snacks, and my brother-in-law and sister buy all sorts of jerky, and the attendant hasn't said much to us, says, "You know, I have a bunch of other types in the back, why don't you come back there with me and check it out?" Before this point, my friend and I were already paranoid about stopping here because this is the perfect true crime story, right? Being in a different country where no one knows us, no one back home knows where we are exactly, no cell phone service because of roaming fees, in the middle of goddamn nowhere at the only gas station around for hundreds of miles as far as we know. So my alarms are already raised, and my brother-in-law and sister of course don't want to be rude and want to check out what he has. I tell them, you know, we still have such a long journey, we have enough jerky, we really don't need more, we should get going. My friend is already out the door because she noped out when he asked us, and I have to be the one to reason with my family. The attendant tells us, well, it'll be really quick, trust me. What do you think is gonna happen? My brother-in-law and sister are like, yeah, we'll go check it out. Then I tell them, no guys, come on, we have to go. Why do you need to go check this out? We have enough, don't we? Besides, I'm sure there's more stops before Alaska that have a variety too. I don't want to stay here longer than we need to. We got gas and we had snacks. Let's get moving. The attendant sighs and asks, why are you so afraid? It's just jerky. I reply, I'm not afraid. I don't want to be here anymore, and there's no reason to be. If it's just jerky, then why can't you bring some options up to us? Should be easy enough, right? My sister shoots me a disapproving look that tells me to stop being rude, and the attendant smiles at me and says it'll be much easier if you guys just follow me back there. Finally, I've had enough, and I tell my sister, look, if you guys want to stay, go ahead, but since I'm driving your car, me and Diana will leave, and when we get to a place with Wi-Fi, we'll let you know where we are. And I start heading out, which I guess says a lot that I'd rather get myself more than likely lost than stay here, because my sister and brother-in-law ended up following me out, but I still get the "you were being rude" to the nice man. He's just lonely speech, and we all load up and head out. As we're driving off, the attendant walks out and watches us until we are out of sight. With everything that happened in Canada, that was the scariest experience of the trip, even scarier than when a bison tried to charge at our car. Anyway, love you Canada, but I'm good on never seeing that man or gas station again.